I think the next conversation is one that is a crucial one, because India's path to Viksit Bharat, and we're talking about Viksit Bharat by 2047, is deeply linked with the prosperity of its rural economy and agricultural sector. How much ever we talk about urbanization, an economy around delivering everything in 10 minutes, the fact is over 60% of the population resides in rural areas, and agriculture contributes to the livelihood of millions. Sustainable growth in this sector is an economic necessity. A key challenge facing the agricultural sector right now is that, of course, of climate change. It's a reality we're all facing. We see it some parts every year, whether it's erratic monsoon, rising temperatures, droughts, extreme weather events, which threaten crop yields and farmer incomes. Now, these risks make resilience building more critical than ever. Expanding access to insurance cover for farmers then becomes a key pillar of this resilience to protect farmers from climate uncertainties. Government initiatives are there, of course, the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. This has made strides in improving coverage to rural India, yet much more needs to be done. And this is our next conversation. I have with me Mr. Rajeshnani Dasari, Executive Director at Kshema General Insurance, that seeks to empower Indian farmers by protecting them from financial losses, especially those caused by climate change. Mr. Dasari, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah.
Let me begin by asking you about the premise of agricultural insurance, because we are a nation that knows we have to pray to the rain gods.
Yeah.
How does that work for an insurer where uncertainty is a problem?
Yeah. As an insurance company, uncertainty is what we would want to cover, right? Because insurance company, it's all about ensuring that we cover the risks of the customers appropriately, right? And in this case, like you aptly said, one of the biggest unknown for the farmer is weather. That's the one thing that they just cannot control whatsoever, right? But they very well understand that that's something that they would want to mitigate, right? So we have a customer that understands the risk, that is looking for a solution, and they know that insurance is one of the ways in which that can happen, right? So that's how we thought, like, probably that's a place where we would want to play. Because today, if you see, the market is there, because there are about like 38 crores of acres of arable land in India, right? But only 30% of it is insured, right? And there aren't any companies that are focused specifically on providing customizable products to the farmers directly.
No, 1 minute. Let me go back to that.
Sure.
You're saying only 30% of agricultural land or farmed land in India is insured.
Yes, as of now, correct.
So that shows you the extent of people whose livelihood depends on farming, completely dependent on vagaries of weather.
Absolutely, yes. And most of them are part of the Pay program, like you said, right? Because before that, the awareness of insurance among farmers, it's not as high. And definitely IRDA has, with all these programs, right, has raised that awareness considerably. But still, there is a lack of having customized products that a farmer should be able to opt in versus just having to go with the flow is lacking at this point in the industry. And that's where we are trying to make a play using technology as our key focus area.
So how do you go about this? How do you go about this mitigating risk? Because that is a big part of the insurance bucket, right? You have to insure premiums, you have to mitigate risks, and there is already a large government-run program. How do you segue and how do you dovetail, rather, into that?
Absolutely. Very great question, actually, right? So the government program definitely helps, right? But there are a lot of perils that are still very local, like what Nataj was saying, right? What we are looking at is providing customized products that are hyperlocal, right? When I say hyperlocal, the perils are not consistent across India, right? There are about 127 different climatic zones in India, and each climatic zone has its own kind of vagaries involved in there, right? And if you look at, say, coastal Andhra, cyclone is the major peril, whereas in Rajasthan, sandstorms are a big issue, right? And one of the perils that we cover is animal attack. Even within that, between, say, Haryana, where Nilgai is the biggest concern, whereas in Kerala, elephant is a bigger concern. So there is no one-size-fits-all product that's available for covering for all the farmers in India. And that's what we are focusing on, wherein we would want to provide customized solutions which would help the farmer to choose exactly what they want and be able to protect their livelihood.
No, so this is very interesting. Give me a little bit of detail and example. What would be the customized solution for an agriculturist, for a farmer who wants to protect themselves from a Nilgai attack?
Yeah.
You have no idea when the animal is going to come.
Absolutely.
Even they can put up a fence.
Yes.
So what exactly are you doing and how are you protecting them? How does the mechanics of that work?
Perfect, right? When we say protection, we are talking about the loss, right? We are not talking about protecting the farm from the animal attack.
My point exactly. This is a likelihood which is very high that this will happen. The chances of this happening are very, very high. A sandstorm in Rajasthan is a very, very high chance.
Yes, absolutely.
Likewise for a cyclone in Andhra Pradesh.
Perfect, right? That's a very good question. So that's where technology comes into picture, right? So the first thing that we do is we look at all the past data, right? Based off of which we develop our own machine language models, which is used for pricing all these products, right? If, like, say, for example, cyclone coverage in Andhra Pradesh would cost you more versus cyclone coverage in Rajasthan, because the likelihood of that happening there is less. Similarly, Nilgai coverage in Haryana, the cost of that would be higher there versus Nilgai coverage in Kerala, because there is no risk there, right? So we have our own internal algorithms that we use to figure out where we want to focus, what kind of risk that we want to focus in, and how we would want to price it, to your point, right? That's the first aspect. The second aspect as an insurance company is for us to distribute the risk, right? We don't want to be focused in just one area of the country where, let's say, our complete revenue is coming, say, from Andhra Pradesh for cyclones, right? Just one hit of a cyclone, the insurance company would be at risk, right? So we would want to make sure we are covering customers across the different climatic zones so that we are distributing our risk and not one event is going to impact the company.
So let's come back to the point about the 30% that has agricultural insurance. One would presume a bulk of this is government push. Private would be a smaller portion, and if those details can also be shared. How do you go about customer acquisition in this case? Because think about it, there is a government-run program. What is the advantage you offer, and how do you convince farmers to go in for a product like this?
Yeah, initially that was a question that was raised to us when we were pitching this to the regulators as well as the other investors, right? But you'd be surprised, when we just did a registration drive, there are 10 lakh farmers who expressed interest in saying, like, hey, we are interested in a product like this, right? And we did a number of market surveys internally within India and in collaboration with some of the external entities as well. Pretty much the customer is looking for a solution that works for them, that they can trust, and that pays in a timely manner, right? Because what we are trying to do with our product is essentially because we know exactly where the farm is located, because that's the first thing that we do is geo-reference the farm, right? Because all the perils, the crops that we present to the user is based on their specific location, right? And because we know exactly where they are at, and we can monitor exactly what's happening on this piece of land using the satellite imagery, right? Because we take images almost on a regular basis to see exactly what's happening on that piece of land so that we can estimate on what's potentially coming there so that we can inform the customer and also start managing the risk from our perspective, right? And as and when claim happens, we use all this information along with the additional data. If it is a peril-based, we use the IMD and the local weather station data. We collate all this information and we try to process the claim within hours, if not a couple of days, right? Because that's where customer sees the value. Because farmer needs that money at that point in time when the loss happens, right? Not at a future date when after all the assessment happens, like after a month or two.
Yeah, so you are a faster provider of the comfort of that insurance payout. Very fascinating, because think of it this way. You cannot look at a Viksit Bharat leaving behind the agricultural sector. It has to be part of the driving force. And that comfort and cover is what is required. Thank you so much, Mr. Dasari, for speaking with us today.
Sure. Thanks, Tamanna.
Thank you.